And so, it begins. Dark were the skies and chill was the wind as the land was covered in a veil of malice. Across the hill did ride a dread army of the night, cloaked in mist and fog, prepared to rain down death and destruction upon the land. And the people did cry out for a savior, a noble soul to save them from their impending demise. Just as it seemed all was lost, in strode a mighty hero, clad in shivering metal from head to toe. Wielding a terrible broadsword, he did cleave his foes in two, smashing their ranks asunder with righteous fury. And when the day was done and the enemy strode across the fields in pieces, the people did turn to the warrior and say, "We shall name this day in your honor. Speak unto us your wisdom." The warrior said one word that day: epic.
One man, one murloc, one giant angry badger. This is Blue Plz. It begins now. Indeed, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Blue Plz right here on cynicalbrit.com with myself, TotalBiscuit. Or should I say Red Please, because the darkened skies were stained with the fire of a very, very pissed off dragon. And of course, the air was clogged with the tears of crying noobs as they're incinerated by Deathwing, and it is a wonderful, wonderful sight. I love the smell of roasted scrublet in the morning. Scrublet, ladies and gentlemen, one of those stupid words made up by L'Oreal. Oh, metamorphose. Morphose, that's not even a real word. Scrublet. Million eyes. Oh, why is it that these stupid makeup companies have to... Hey, there you go. Look, revelation. Makeup companies make stuff up. Unbelievable. They make up words, and in fact, it is infuriating. Sadly, for some inexplicable reason, L'Oreal seems to believe that my demographic is absolutely perfect to market freaking makeup to. I cannot imagine why, but every now and again you will see a makeup video. Let's see, what's the current ad on my Section 8? Yes, Diane Kruger is telling me about L'Oreal Metamorphose, which is apparently the souffle sensation. Because everybody knows that all a woman really wants is the ability to rub cake on her face. My name is TotalBiscuit, you're listening to Blue Plz. It is 3 minutes past 8 in the British Isles. It is 3 minutes past 9 Central European Time, and it's 3 minutes past 3 on the east coast of the United States. Yeah. That it is. That it is. What have I got coming up for you in the show today? Incidentally, if you're wondering how long it took for me to come up with that joke, it's sort of been festering for about a week and a half. Seriously. I went through the proto stages of developing said joke by using some similar remark on Twitter. But then finally, once the joke had fermented and started to smell and had generated some kind of alcoholic content, I was able to unleash it upon the masses. Speaking of alcohol, I do have some amazing Russian Standard Gold here. Or indeed, as it's described on my Twitter, as Troll Standard, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, Troll Standard, an amazing gift given to me by one of the fans when I was down at the Cataclysm launch party. Probably one of the best gifts I've ever actually been given. Think frickin' rules. Absolutely fantastic. I've posted a picture for you right here on the IRC channel, which if you're not already in, you should be. irc.quakenet.org, # or pound cynical Brit. It's the place to get in there. Or alternatively, if you so desire, you can use a web client. Yes, webchat.quakenet.org, I think, works. I might be wrong there. Yep, webchat.quakenet.org. That's the place to go. Freaking awesome stuff. I'll post it in the show notes for those of you unfortunate enough to be listening to the podcast instead. Oh well. What's coming up in the show today? I'm going to talk to you about somebody who's very, very upset. Yes. They're so very, very upset. Why are they upset, ladies and gentlemen? I can only get blues from 5-mans? No! Yes. Your tears, so delicious, so sweet. So very, very cold. Also, rating. 11 out of 12 bosses down thus far. Some people screaming it's the same as Wrath. Why it isn't. Coming up for you later on in the show. Also, rediscovering the joy of questing. Yes, rediscovering the joy of questing. Why I'm actually enjoying questing now. For the first time in... Oh yes, that would be ever. Going through Mount Hyjal, I'll tell you about my experiences and all of the fun stuff that's been going on there. And yes, I think it's probably time that we do bring out the old win bag, the old feature we used to use before the Cataclysm Q&A. It's the illusion of choice! You get to pick the last topic of the show. Email in themurloc@gmail.com. That is themurloc@gmail.com. That's the place you need to go. Email it. Don't email mailbox@cynicalbrit.com. That's for Azeroth Daily, and it only gets read for Azeroth Daily. That I can guarantee. So, a couple of things I want to talk about before we go into the mailbag. We delve deeply into the mailbag. And what I have to say is, firstly, thank you to everyone that came out for the launch event down in London. It was pretty cool, honestly. I learned a few things. One, Indigo Pearl don't seem to have any clue who anybody is, so I snuck past the event organizer, because, Ghostcrawler and Fargo were there, and they were really, really busy. They had interviews with really important sites like IGN. Yeah, IGN, that site nobody actually takes seriously unless they're 12 years old. Those guys. And a few other people. So I wasn't able to get an interview, or was I? So I snuck past a guy in a top hat that was not quite as good as mine. He was dazzled by how amazing my top hat was. Indeed, there were quite a few people down there in top hats. They had a Gilnean theme going on. A couple of guys outside with sandwich boards saying the end is nigh. The guy, the event organizer, was a rather rude individual whose name I did not get, but his top hat was inferior to mine. Indeed, I think he felt emasculated by the presence of my top hat. My top hat was the best one on the scene, that I can guarantee. Envy. Glittering green envy in his eyes. I snuck past him, and I spoke to Ghostcrawler, and I spoke to Fargo, and Ghostcrawler's eyes lit up in recognition when I said who I was. Fargo already knew who I was as soon as I opened my mouth, because of course I interviewed Fargo a little while ago on Blue Plz. He spent a bunch of the show actually doing the show with me, so yeah, Fargo knew who I was, which was awesome. Had a chat to him, but the PR person from Indigo Pearl had no idea who I was, or indeed didn't seem to have any idea who anybody was, more to the point. Sort of floating around, so who are you? CynicalBrit.com, YouTube.com/TotalHalibut. Yeah, that would be the guys that gave you 58 million views. That would be the biggest promoter of WoW Cataclysm on the entire internet. That guy. Yeah, you might want to know who that guy is. And that might sound a little bit arrogant, but generally speaking, that's what PR companies are actually for. They're supposed to liaise with promoters, particularly ones that have more clout than IGN, which would be most of them. Anyway, that was pretty fun anyway. It was awesome, honestly. They're both really, really awesome, cool guys. Big fan of that. But I did like to meet the guys in the queue, actually. The press event was a total waste of time. Absolute, complete, and total waste of time. So, the press event involved us standing around, getting, I would say drunk, but they only offered two kinds of drink. They offered Kronenberg 1664, and they offered this horrible pink rum cocktail thing. Yeah. A little bit of a waste of time, honestly. Wasn't a huge fan of that. And apparently that's all press events are. I was not aware of this. This is one of the first press events I've gone to. It's people standing around, farting around, exchanging business cards, and doing absolutely nothing. Indeed, it comes to the point where you find out that most of the people in the room don't even play WoW. So you have to ask, what the hell are you even doing here? I have to imagine that they're sort of like the Paris Hiltons of the gaming world. Indeed, I did meet someone who did play WoW there, and ironically enough, that person was there representing Playboy magazine. The people you thought would be there, actually interested in WoW and stuff like that, they didn't care. Like, PC Gamer, I don't play that game. Oh, there's people like that. Eurogamer was there, I think. And, they weren't interested in it either. But I have the business card of one of the producers from Playboy magazine who is apparently a huge fan of Blue Plz. So, thank you. Thank you very much for that. So yeah, he listens to Blue Plz. He knows who he is, so big shout out to him. Oh yeah. That was awesome. And it was really fun to meet the people in the queue. And actually, what I would like to say is, and this is sort of in response to the whole Panorama program that went on the same day as this, a very cynically timed Panorama program, I would say discussing addiction, but in reality it wasn't discussing addiction at all. It was claiming that addiction existed and indeed press-ganging people into believing so. Indeed, most of their evidence for it seemed to be, well, this person, and by person I mean this teenager, who is clearly an introvert, clearly has some issues, certainly, claims to be addicted to World of Warcraft. Ergo, they must be addicted to World of Warcraft. And indeed, the producer of the program went as far afterwards to say that the games industry was being too defensive, and said that they should admit the potential for addiction. What? That's not how proof works! Don't be ridiculous! The burden of proof is on the accuser! I'm going against all the established medical evidence that says the games are not in fact addictive, and the proof of that I merely reference to the fact that there is no medical diagnosis for such a thing. It is not part of any of the well-respected and standard textbooks. It doesn't exist as an actual condition. I'm flying in the face of all of that, and I have the cheek to say the games industry is being too defensive, and they should admit the potential for addiction. Well, I guess in the meantime, I should admit the potential that I am in fact a 5-armed alien from the planet Zod, here to eat your brains. I need to admit that potential. God. Reminds me of the whole Obama accusations, like, why won't you admit the potential that you are in fact a secret Muslim? Because the burden of proof is on the accuser. Why won't you admit the potential that you're a 5-armed alien? Well, I can think of a few reasons. It's absolute nonsense. And you know what? I'll tell you this. The people that I met in the queue for that, and, there were hundreds and hundreds of people down there. It was huge, all the way around Leicester Square. Massive queue of people, all really jovial, really happy, talking to each other, interacting like normal human beings. Being really awesome. Every guy I met there, aside from the guy that tried to stab me, bloody Irishman, aside from that guy, he wasn't a WoW player, so aside from the guy that threatened to knife me and my friends and everybody else in the queue, they were all amazing. They were really, really great. Normal individuals who came out to have a good time and to socialise over their hobby, which is what hobbies are all about. I would like to cite certain other things that people like to group around, people like to form clubs around. We can start with golf. So golf addiction, big problem I've heard in the upper classes there. Massive problem, they need to go to treatment for that. And of course, golf is a game, so that's nothing like World of Warcraft, which is also a game. And of course, people don't group together to play golf, like, I don't know, people playing in guilds, maybe. And they don't spend long hours playing golf. Indeed, they don't rearrange their life schedules and work schedules to play golf, kind of like raiding. No, they don't do any of that. Absolutely not. So I think the only difference, actually, between golf and between World of Warcraft is that golf players have a poorer sense of fashion. That's really all there is to it. I see people spending thousands of dollars on golf clubs, and then people claim that I'm an addict for spending $100 on a gaming mouse. It's so stupid. The people I met there were completely normal individuals, and of course, why wouldn't they be? Tell me that. Why wouldn't they be? WoW is a hobby like any other. And you know what? It can be overindulged in like any other. But do other hobbies get this kind of nonsense? No. Sorry guys, I'm addicted to building ships in bottles. I can't do anything about it. Please, please help me. It's nonsense like this that enables incredibly sensationalist arguments, and it enables weak-willed people to slump into this idea of addiction. It's so absurd, because that's actually more harmful than any addictive elements that are even present, assuming they're even there. I said this to the guy from Playboy, by the way, and he was in agreement with me. He was a bit drunk, that was probably why, but needless to say, he was in agreement to me. Will you explain exactly just how important it is for Blizzard to create an addictive game that people spend long, long hours on? Because that, ladies and gentlemen, is bad business sense. If everyone played WoW 24/7, the servers would crash. They would have to hire 5 or 6 times as many customer service agents. Their actual costs would go through the roof, and yet you pay the same cost every month. The ideal player for Blizzard is someone who subscribes and barely ever plays. Hell, we got 300 odd people on for the Troll Fest, and it crashed the server on no less than 3 occasions. We were told to leave. What would happen if these addicts flooded the servers and played 24/7? It is entirely contrary to good business sense, and indeed the very architecture which WoW is built on to create an addictive game. It is stupid. You would never, ever want to do that. Assuming it's even possible. You know, that day made me very, very sad that for the longest time I've been such an ardent supporter of the BBC. To me, they have been the idol and the reference and the gold standard that I've based all of my work on up to this point. For the last 10 or 11 years, I have aspired to get to that level of broadcasting. And on that day, I saw the true face of what it is. Sensationalist tripe and garbage. R.I.P. BBC. I'll do the mailbag after this, folks. Machine Eye Supremacy, you say? Something a little bit older, maybe? Some attack music? Enjoy. You're listening to the podcast, an archive of Blue Plz. Music was removed to comply with copyright law. If you'd like to hear the music, tune into the live stream on Fridays at 8 p.m. GMT. That's 3 p.m. EST, only on cynicalbrit.com. You are listening to Blue Plz right here on cynicalbrit.com. It's the first show of Season 5, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah! Kicking off a new season with a new expansion. Sounds awesome. If you're having problems with lag on the stream, either refresh your stream or try the other server. It's as simple as that. Our servers are reaching capacity once again. We will be adding, hopefully, a 3rd server before the next show. Needless to say, this takes time and it costs money. So, yeah. If there's anyone out there that has spare server capacity for a once-a-week show that is able to donate a Shoutcast relay, that will be very much appreciated. Just get in touch via themurloc@gmail.com. Anyway, I'd like to tell you one thing. I said one thing, and then I went on a 15-minute rant about addiction, but whatever. One thing regarding something that's going to be happening in the next couple of days. This will also be shown on Azeroth Daily, which if you haven't started watching, you probably should, because a lot of people are, and people seem to be really digging the format, which I'm very happy about. Next one will go up after this show. However, there's one reason why I actually went down to London. I went down to London to get a collector's edition signed to auction off for charity. And that's exactly what I managed to do. Went down to London, bought the collector's edition, got it signed by Ghostcrawler, got some swag as well, and I'm going to be throwing in with this. A couple of Cataclysm t-shirts. The best lanyard in the world. Oh, man, you have not seen this lanyard. This is the king of lanyards. It is a special Blizzard lanyard. I'm going to go get this lanyard. I'm going to be right back. So I'm going all the way over here, which is blatantly not what I should be doing in the middle of the show. I'm going to do it anyway. This friggin' lanyard is the best lanyard. Where's my lanyard? Right. Okay, we've got this styling bag right here. Really, really styling bag. Also, I have this photo of me being eaten by Deathwing. I like that. That's a big fan of that. There we go. Aha, yes. Under the copy of Edge magazine, i.e. the magazine that gives everything a 7 or 4 out of 10, I have this press pass. This is my press pass for the event, and this lanyard has the best stuff ever. On one side, it's got a little bit about World of Warcraft Cataclysm, but it's got this amazing Diablo insignia on it. This awesome flaming Diablo. It's so good. So I'll be giving this away, which is kind of annoying because I really want to keep it, but whatever. Yeah. Along with the collector's edition signed by Ghostcrawler and me if you want me to. And also a couple of Cataclysm t-shirts and the other swag that I got from the event, including that really styling bag. You can carry a shopping home in it, folks, with Deathwing on the side, roaring about how many vegetables you bought. This is going to be auctioned off on eBay, and it's going to be auctioned off for charity. Now, you might wonder which charity, and a lot of people are screaming at me saying Child's Play, and this is where I get a little bit controversial and say that I think there are bigger problems in the world than whether or not first world children have toys to play with. It's true. It really, really is. I think they do great work, but unfortunately I also think that there are charities that need money just a little bit more than that one. So I'll be giving this away for the charity that goes by the name of Water. And Water does a very simple thing and a very important thing, and that they help dig and build proper wells in third world countries, which stop people from dying from either infection in water or just simply not having enough of it. They are a very, very noble charity. They funded, I believe, over 3,200 water projects. 1.5 million people have got clean water as a direct result of this in 17 countries. So I'm going to be donating the proceeds of that to Water. I know it's not a very exciting or sexy charity, but here's an idea. Why don't we give to a charity that actually matters, as opposed to being stylish and sexy, or because it's got gamer stuff tagged all over it? Don't get me wrong, I think Child's Play's done an amazing job in getting gamers to actually care about charitable work, but I think it's probably about time we actually save some lives, isn't it? Yeah, think about that. Anyway, that auction is going to be going up on eBay in the next couple of days, so if you want to take part in that, that will be fantastic. That is open to everyone in the world, by the way, so we'll be going over that. And it is actually called Charity Water, by the way. If you look for water, you're not going to find much, but it's called Charity Water. Very easy to find, charitywater.org. Anyway, what time for Mailbag, don't you think?
Mail time!
That sounds like it's mail time! Here's the mail.
It never fails.
It makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes,
I want to wail.
Yes, indeed, folks, it's mail time. That is the time where I read the mail. Yes. Got quite a lot of mail. I get a lot more mail now, but I'm separating these two mailboxes. Please do not email into mailbox@cynicalbrit.com. Please don't, if it's for the show. That's the email address for Azeroth Daily. Do not email into that for the show, because I won't read it. I read those for Azeroth Daily, not for Blue Plz. Blue Plz email address is themurloc@gmail.com. And of course, bear in mind, I've got the illusion of choice at the end of the show, where I will pick the best email as my final topic. Now, here's one about Wrath. This is a good one about Wrath, isn't it? Because we got the results in from our poll. We had over 5,500 people vote in the poll that I gave out last week, which was, how many of you unsubbed at some point during Wrath due to lackluster content? The answer is 67.08% of people polled unsubbed during Wrath as a direct result of that. 32.92% did not. Think about that. I know it's skewed results because, hey, a lot of those people, indeed maybe all of them, listen to my show, so perhaps they think in a different way to your average WoW player. But hey, there you go. That's a lot of people that unsub due to bad content. How about we don't make any more bad content, Blizzard? Think about that. You want some money? We'll happily give you money. You just need to provide us with content that doesn't suck. And so far, you're doing a good job of that. Greetings, you cynical bastard, so says No Hannah, the Paladin Overlord of Cenarian Circle LOL RP server. Apparently this person likes Syndragoza. No. Apparently your pathetic ears betray you! I've been the primary tank of my guild since early BC, a guild that during the Old War era held the best 10-man guild title on the server. I believe something like 11th in the US, in fact. We earned our rusted proto-drakes and we're going very strong. 6 months later, of course, attendance was suffering a little, something TOC initially remedied. However, TOC only lasted about 2 or 3 months, interest-wise. As ICC came around, we had serious problems scraping together 10 people, and the infernal goddamn gating system made it even worse to keep people interested. Yeah, let's go kill the same 4 bosses we did last week, with no chance of progression. Yeah, not so much. Either way, it all culminated with the release of Halion, which we made a single night's attempt at with a raid of only half guildies, and the rest either pugs or friends of the guild, and since then, there was no more raiding. Now Cataclysm is out, while the people are still around, several have left to join the top 25-man guild on the server, while others have transferred off the server entirely. The result is, since launch, I've seen a total of 2 guild members logged on, 1 being the guild leader. Personally, I've stuck with the guild through thick and thin, even through some very unfair decisions against me. I've never considered unsubbing or leaving them to fend for myself, even through the worst that Wrath had to offer. It is very sad, passing, and sadder that I may be forced to break away and find a new home in order to keep playing. The long and short of it is that Blizzard's poor quality and lack of content destroyed one of the greatest guilds I've ever been a part of, my home for the last 4 years, and tore apart a mostly wonderful group of people. It is a sad thing, and I'd like to ask for a salute for all those who I once battled beside. You people have been a great delight, and I wish all of you, well, most of you, the best of luck in whatever you might decide to do. Indeed. At which point I would ask for an appropriate drop-in to indicate the magnificent failure of Blizzard during Wrath. Well, I have one that's pretty damn appropriate.
Not 1, but 2 Jormungandr worms.
Yeah. It killed... Let me see, how many guilds was I in? I think it killed 2 of the guilds I was in, actually. The sheer boredom of it killed Dark with the Skies in combination with the buggy nature of Syndragoza and the fact that that area was lagging 2 out of 10 of my guild members most of the time, so they weren't able to properly perform. Yeah. That was unfortunate. Extremely unfortunate, in fact. Very, very bad indeed. And I experienced this burnout on many occasions during Wrath as a direct result of this kind of thing. And here's something that I might not have let you know about. I'll tell you this. So I experienced very similar burnout during, yes indeed, Vanilla. A lot of people did. You want to know why? Because it was that single dungeon per tier nonsense again. Indeed. And the 20-mans didn't really work all that well to alleviate that, because they were just sort of awkwardly jammed between tiers. For instance, you had Zul'Gurub come out. Zul'Gurub, I believe, came out after Blackwing Lair. Please correct me if I'm wrong there. I'm going to have to look it up. Zul'Gurub did come out after Blackwing Lair, right? I'm fairly sure it did. Yeah. Yeah, it definitely did. Now, the thing is, those of us who were on Blackwing Lair at that point really had absolutely no reason at all to go into Zul'Gurub, and I don't really blame them, because of course Blackwing Lair gear was, for the most part, superior. The weird thing about Zul'Gurub is that because they got better at itemization as they went along, you had these items that in, say, in Zul'Gurub were vastly superior to Molten Core stuff, and indeed, in some very, very rare cases, were actually better than a couple of Blackwing Lair items, but by that point, you really didn't want to be in Zul'Gurub, so you didn't really have too many options. You went along, and when AQ20 and 40 came out, why go to AQ20 when you can go to AQ40? So, for some people, there were choices, but it depended on exactly how fast you progressed. If you were actually up to date with the content, then the release of AQ20 and Zul'Gurub was not really all that useful to you. If you weren't up to date with the content, these instances were actually a godsend, and I think they did really, really help that. The problem is that I was actually not so much on the cutting edge of it, but I was up to date with the raid content. Pretty much all the time. You know, when AQ came out, I raided AQ. When Blackwing Lair came out, I raided Blackwing Lair. When Naxxramas came out, I raided Naxxramas. Indeed, on the first week it came out, we got ourselves attuned, and we went to Naxxramas. We only did the first few bosses initially, because we were busy working on Cthulhu, but we did do it. And then, after we'd beaten Cthulhu, we went in there and beat a whole lot more bosses. All the way up to Thaddeus, at which point we had to stop. Yeah. The problem is that you can turn around and say, well, Zul'Gurub and AQ20 made the game, made vanilla have multiple raids per tier, but in reality they didn't, because of the awkward way that they were sandwiched between tiers. So, the only expansion where I didn't unsub due to burnout, due to doing the same content over and over again, was actually TBC. And why? It's quite simple. Multiple raids per tier. Options. A change of scenery, folks. That was the way to do it. You had 2 full tiers of raiding available on launch. They did a very, very good job in that regard. Gave you an awful lot of things to do. Never really got bored during that, actually. As I recall, the only reason I quit at the end of TBC was due to life commitments. In fact, that was exactly the reason. I didn't have time to raid, so I stopped playing. Which is why I actually didn't get to go into Sunwell, but I never felt bored with TBC raiding, and actually that's why I think Cataclysm is looking so great, because I don't think I'm going to get bored with that either. I'll be talking a lot more about the way that the Cataclysm raids are set up, and answering the concerns of many that because this stuff is getting killed so quickly, that it's just turning back into Wrath of the Lich King again. Oh, it isn't. It isn't. I can happily provide you with some evidence of that. But yeah, it is sad to see guilds die, and unfortunately that guild ain't the only one. I can tell you that for a fact. Okay, quick email here. Comes in from Jeff of Lightning Hoof US, and he says, Dear host of shows, I just ran Blackrock Caverns last night on normal on my mage, and I have to say, it didn't seem nearly as hard as shown on your video. I admit I've been playing this game for a while, and courtesy of listening to shows like yours, I've learned how to suck less considerably over the last couple of years. If something goes wrong, I first ask what I did wrong and strive to improve myself. What I don't know is if Blizzard tuned down the Cataclysm dungeons prior to release. Yes, I believe they did. All signs point to yes. Now, in terms of the heroics, not so much. With the heroics, a lot of them do seem to be about the same kind of difficulty level. Indeed, we saw SK Gaming's Guild, who are now, I think, ranked about 15th, maybe even 10th in the world. They wiped in Grimbert's Hall quite a few times, actually. They did a little bit of wiping in a couple of other dungeons, Throne of Tides, for instance. It's tricky stuff, some of it's not. Vortex Pinnacle, for instance, is a joke. Lost City of Tolvir is too easy. They're the lower tiers, but I did see them wipe as well quite a bit in Shadowfire Keep. It's true. Indeed they did. So, yeah, it looks like they did nerf normals, which is actually really upsetting. I heard rumours of it later on in the beta that they'd done something to it, but of course I had no reason to go back into normal modes at that time, so I wasn't really able to check, but yeah, and it's damn unfortunate, honestly, it really, really is. I just hope that they don't follow suit with heroics, I really don't. You can't teach anyone anything if you hold their hand too much. They have to have room to fail. It's the only way they will learn. My name is TotalBiscuit, you are listening to Blue Plz right here on cynicalbrit.com. This is appropriate, I think. This is by a band called Shadows Fall. It's called Ghosts of Past Failures. And I'll be back to talk to you a little bit about raiding in Cataclysm. Enjoy. You're listening to the podcast, an archive of Blue Plz. Music was removed to comply with copyright law. If you'd like to hear the music, tune into the live stream on Fridays at 8 p.m. GMT. That's 3 p.m. EST, only on cynicalbrit.com.
Friend, I've got what you need! A premium quality Ventrilo server from UGTservers.com! It's goblin engineering, you see! Not like those inferior gnome products, always backfiring. If you're short on cash, you can even share the cost of the server with Guild Deposit. Have those lazy guildies of yours pay their dues. You know, I could offer you this amazing electric cattle prod that'll really get them moving.
UGTservers.com, voice communication for your guild. Get yours today. Yes, indeed, folks. You're listening to Blue Plz right here on cynicalbrit.com with myself, TotalBiscuit. So we're going to be talking about raiding, folks. Yes, we are. We're going to be talking about raiding. And I know quite a bit about raiding. when it comes to Cataclysm. I did it in the beta, and I did 12 hours of commentary on raid progression for the Ape Boys. Yes, I did. That was pretty entertaining. I enjoyed that a lot. So, the raid progress at the moment, I am told, and I'm going to have to check this, that Insidia and Paragon are fighting to get the world first right now on Nefarian. Yes, they are, in fact. Insidia progress is 11 of 12 at the moment. So, they're just waiting to kill Nefarian. Paragon has attempted to kill Nefarian as well. And I believe there actually are a couple of others. So, it's interesting stuff, folks. A little bit of competition. Of course, we're not talking about heroic modes here. These are just normals. So, already, Cataclysm has outdone Wrath of the Lich King. How has it outdone Wrath of the Lich King? Well, it lasted more than 3 days before all the raid content was killed. Nice, isn't it? However, some people are very confused. They're very concerned. They say, TotalBiscuit, you told us the raid content was hard, but these guys are clearing it. Right. Okay. So, I'm going to have to explain to you the difference between Wrath content and Cataclysm content. There's a reason these guys are clearing it, folks. It's because most of these guys already did this content in beta. They also happen to be the best guilds in the world. It's a fairly important point to make, I feel. There are an awful lot of these people who are unbelievably good, but they still make up a tiny minority. Absolutely tiny minority of players. Little, tiny, whiny minority. Not so much whiny, they don't whine too much, but they are very, very, very small in the grand scheme of things. So, when one is surprised that these elite players, these players who have been around since vanilla, these players who have always been part of the competitive scene in one way or another, then one has to wonder why. Why are you surprised by this? Why are you surprised that they're killing this normal mode content? And more to the point, why do you think that makes it like Wrath? Here's the thing about Wrath, folks. The thing about Wrath is that the main piece of raid content is a piece of raid content that had not only been mapped out, strategized, and beaten 5 years before, but was also declawed in comparison to its original version. There are many examples of this. Many, many examples. Not least of which that I always refer to because it is a prime example of the very nature of Wrath of the Lich King, and that is Hygen the Unclean. Why do I reference Hygen the Unclean? Because Hygen the Unclean is the very essence of the Cataclysm raid. Well, it's not really, it's the essence of the Wrath raid philosophy, and the philosophy that Cataclysm rejected so wholeheartedly. And that philosophy is, you can't let things kill you. That would be wrong. Indeed, that's pretty much the essence of normal modes, folks. Things can't kill you. And Naxxramas set up the entire expansion to do that. There are exceptions, of course. Like pre-nerf XT002. That was pretty damn hard. And some of the normal modes in Ulduar, but for the most part, what you had in normal mode were a bunch of declawed fights that allowed far too much margin for error. Naxxramas was nothing but that. You want to know why Naxxramas was beaten so easily? You know what I'd like to ask? Why wasn't it beaten quicker? Let's be honest, the only thing that held people back from beating it was the fact that they weren't level 80 yet. And they weren't allowed in. I'm fairly sure, actually, they could have beaten it lower than that. But hey, there you go. Can't go in there, not level 80. It's a little silly, sadly. But it is also the case. So, if you want to compare that, the rating of Wrath, which was 1 recycled instance plus 2 1-boss encounters. If you want to compare that to Cataclysm, then I've got to turn around and say, are you mad? Are you actually insane? Do you know anything about the Cataclysm raid content that allows you to make a statement like that? Because I'm going to turn around and say, no, you don't. You don't know anything about it. You don't have a clue. Not a sausage, folks. Not a sausage. So I had the privilege of watching SK Gaming raid last night, and they've killed a good number of bosses so far, but I watched them learn encounters that, were not uber hard, and I was actually coaching them through the stream, telling them what they were doing wrong and stuff like that, because for the most part the encounters remain unchanged, except for Harvest Wormbreaker. That's been completely altered, which is weird as hell. Couldn't really figure out exactly what was going on there, but hey. We figured it out eventually, and we brought it down. But I saw the wipes. And I saw the wipes of the best of the best. These guys are good at what they do. An excellent 25-man guild. Very cohesive, very learned, very experienced, very skillful, and very coordinated. And they were wiping on normal mode content. And why were they wiping on normal mode content? Because it's actually difficult. Because there are mechanics, even in normal mode, that if you screw it up, you're dead. Oh, yeah. I'd like to cite as my examples almost every mechanic in Valiona and Thuralion. Oh, it's a big void zone, dead. Oh, it's a blackout, dead. It's a meteor, dead. It's engulfing magic. Oh, everybody's dead. It's a wonderful flame effect, dead. Yeah. I'm in the Twilight Zone. Oh, I hit some crystals, dead. Enjoy that. And of course, the wonders of enraged timers, folks. Oh, it's okay. Damn. Enrage. Harvest Wormbreaker has a very tight enrage timer. We'll just sit here. It'll be fine. Oh, yeah. You know what happens when he enrages, of course? Dead. Pretty much. And those are basic fights, folks. Valiona and Thuralion is the second boss in the Bastion of Twilight. Harvest Wormbreaker is the first boss in the Bastion of Twilight. People like Magmore. Yes, Magmore, incredibly hard on the healers. It took a good hour or so to bring him down, and that's with the coaching and, of course, the advice of myself and Anaris, reading the strategy guide and telling them exactly what was going on with the stream. And this is a top guild here, folks. A top guild. So explain to me again how this is the same as Wrath. Because it isn't. It's not at all, in any way, shape, or form. The problem with Wrath, folks, is that Wrath used normal modes as an excuse to shut people up. That's what normal modes represented. By the time that we got into the TOC, and all the way into the era of ICC, normal modes had become the you get to see the content mode. The easy mode. The spectator mode, I would go as far as to say. The tourist mode. I want to see the content. Okay, well, here's a mode that can barely kill you. But it's okay, because you get items that are almost as good as the other guys, and they look the same. So you too can look like an amazing raider. Ooh, yeah. And of course, backed up by the corrupt badge system, which sadly is still in the game. Although we will be talking a little bit about that later on. This content, folks, is challenging, it is varied, and it's interesting. And I think perhaps that more than anything is important. Because Tier 7 was none of those things. The only mechanic that I can really think of that genuinely interested me on Tier 7 content was Phase 2 of Malagos. Ah yes, the discs and the shields, they were kind of cool. Everything else, garbage. Phase 1 of Malagos, garbage. Phase 3 of Malagos, horrible vehicle fight, garbage. Sartharian, there are walls of flame, you must move out of them. Ooh. Even 3 Drakes, which people cite as a great example of hard mode, indeed non-binary hard mode content. And I would agree in terms of scaling difficulty, but in terms of how interesting it is, garbage. The entirety of Nexramas, garbage. The Vault of Archivon, garbage, 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 and garbage again. That's what Tier 7 content is. So, when I say that Tier 11 content looks like the absolute best opening lineup for any expansion in terms of its raid availability, then you have to understand the gravity of what I really mean by that. Because I'm talking about better than TBC's opening, and TBC had a very strong opening. It's an excellent selection of innovative bosses. All challenging, all enjoyable, all awesome in a variety of different ways. Hell, I got to check out for the first time watching the stream yesterday the Omnitron defense system. That is one of the more basic bosses. I say basic, but it's a very unique twist on a council fight. There are 4 robots in the Omnitron defense system. Arcanitron, Magmatron, Electron, and Toxitron. Only 2 of these will ever be up at any given time. There is a rotation. But what you have to do is you've got to work out what the various combinations of these robots actually do, because the fight is constantly changing every 30 seconds. Every 30 seconds, one new robot is activated and another robot is shut down. So you'll have 2 up at any given time. It's a great, unique twist on a council fight, and it's challenging, because some of those combos are more unpleasant than others, and the chances are you will experience all of them in a fight. You have to be so on your toes and you have to constantly be thinking, because there's a number of different elements to that fight that will help you, but could potentially hinder you if you screw them up. And there are abilities that will kill you, folks, oh yes. Enjoy the poison bombs, half your raid is dead, wonderful. Enjoy this laser-powered flamethrower, you're dead. Enjoy my toxins, General. You had come for the toxins, but you'll stay, because you're dead! You dare to select Dr. Trax? You should reconsider, General. Indeed you should. You dare to select Toxitron? Can I have some shoes? Man. It's a good fight. And that's one of the more basic fights. Good, entertaining stuff. Yeah. That's not to mention the other stuff. Magmore. What an amazing fight Magmore is. They've reskinned Oru, because we haven't seen too much of that, but it's a big fiery version of Oru that fires lava parasites at you that crawl into your intestines. Ugh! And then you infectiously vomit them up, and they go and attack everybody. But not only that, you jump on his head, impale him on a spike with a bunch of change, and then you DPS his weak spot for massive damage. Yes. Such an intense fight. Fire all over the place, explosions. The fidelity of the fights, even in Cataclysm, is highly superior to the stuff that we've seen in ICC. They go all out with the effects. They make it look pretty. They make it seem epic. Yes, I did just say. And that is so important. Yeah, it is. It really, really is important, folks. It is a fun thing. It is an awesome thing. It is part of what makes raiding great. Raiding has always been about fighting the epic fight, killing the epic boss, receiving the epic loot. And if the fights themselves are not epic, then that all becomes meaningless. This combination of epic design, alongside epic visuals, and an epic approach to raid philosophy, all combines together to make what I view as an extremely solid opening set of raid encounters, backed up by the fact that heroics are now available. Oh yes. Bear in mind as well, folks, that at least on the first tier of content for what I've seen, it starts off difficult and then gets harder as you go in. And of course, bear in mind that the way that they're going to be unlocking heroic modes, you only have to do a boss a couple of times. If you get stuck on Cho'Gall, for instance, and for a couple of weeks you're still killing the other bosses, you can unlock those heroic modes. Yes, you can. You don't have to wait any longer. You don't have to beat Lich King to do heroic Marogar, as ridiculous as that sounds. No ridiculously large dungeons anymore. Thank God for that. It's such a strong opening. I just hope they can stick with it. I really, really do. And to those who believe that this is like Wrath, I have to turn around and say, just try it for yourself, because you will not be saying that when you do. And hopefully Blizzard can just hold its nerve, keep its spine intact, and not bend to the will of its customers on this particular matter, who cry and scream that raiding is too hard. Where is my raiding 101? And they will answer, you already had it, and you flunked. So this time you're going to the School of Hard Knocks. And if you don't like it, try Free Realms. My name is TotalBiscuit. You're listening to Blue Plz right here on CynicalBrit.com. Yes. I think we'll play some Nightwish, folks. Perhaps some classic Nightwish. I do mean classic. Let's go all the way back. We're going to go all the way back to a track called 10th Man Down. We'll be right back after this to talk to you about someone who's very, very upset about his lack of purples. Aww. Enjoy. You are listening to the podcast, an archive of Blue Plz. Music was removed to comply with copyright law. If you'd like to hear the music, tune into the live stream on Fridays at 8 p.m. GMT. That's 3 p.m. EST, only on cynicalbrit.com. You are listening to Blue Plz right here on cynicalbrit.com with myself, TotalBiscuit. Yes, you are. So, there are tears. Yes, I like these tears. These tears are wonderful. These are the tears of a wrath baby. Oh, yeah. And indeed, the tears that sadly are being somewhat listened to. Unfortunate. Very unfortunate. Not too much, admittedly, but enough. Just enough to make me upset. Totes McGoats, folks. Because you know what? Always those with the terrible names that have these kind of complaints. Valor/justice points. Wait a second, what? So I found the vendors finally, he said. And notice the Justice Point gear is all blue! And Valor gear is the purple gear. I looked it up on Wowhead. It says you can only get 75 Valor points per day doing daily heroic dungeons. And other dungeons just give Justice points. The only other way to get Valor points is by doing raiding. This is a clear nerf to people who just want to grind 5-mans. Before I get flamed out and trolled by ignorant comments of people who have lots of free time... Oh, yeah, here we go! Here we go! Yeah! Break out that fallacy! Yeah! Ah, it's the old standard. You can hear it being desheathed. It is the dagger made entirely of butter. Casual butter. It comes out from the sheath. And that is the fallacy that is always wielded by the entitled casual whining morons. I'm going to get flamed by those of you who have lots of free time, but you see, I can only play for 6 seconds a day! I can only play for 6 seconds! And I must be given epics, because I pay $15 a month for that 6 seconds! Yeah! 6 entire seconds! I demand the epics for the 6 seconds of play. In fact, why are you forcing me to level? I demand my level 85 and my epics for my 6 seconds a day! This is why the 5-man system gaining points is good for casual players. Some of us don't like to raid, can't commit to a raid schedule, and also don't like the process that some of the elitist guilds put in place to put entry to a guild. Ooh, the elitist guild, yes. I have a job, and I don't understand the concept that we might want a little bit of quality control in the people that we actually associate with. Why do I think this guy actually doesn't have a job, in fact? Because, you know, normal adults can actually understand the process of being selective as to who you play with. And indeed the idea of applications, for instance, towards raiding guilds. And not all of them do, but a lot of them do. The casual raiding guilds tend to have very, very simple ways of doing things. It's not too difficult. Very easy, say, to get into Trollface. You know? Trollface is a raiding guild. Trollface is an everything guild. Trollface does whatever it pleases. I believe we've got the Classy Trolls achievement now, so I'm pretty happy with that. That's the only achievement we actually need. We've also got that stupid guild banner thing, so yeah. But whatever the case is. In guilds, it depends on the guild that you go into as to what kind of application they have, or indeed what kind of process they go through when playing the game. What is their mission statement? What are they aiming to do, and what kind of people are in that guild? But of course, guilds are elitist. They're elitist because they don't just want to play with everybody, even though the average casual player is a loner and doesn't actually want to associate. That's the irony of it, folks. The average entitled casual is generally a soloer, and then complains that other guilds are elitist, when in fact he is the elitist one. I don't want to play with other people. I don't want to associate with this riffraff, trot what out now, yes. Please. The 5-man system gaining points is good for casual players. Okay. So would you like to explain to me how a 45-minute long dungeon is better for a casual player than, oh, I don't know, let's say, Yes. The Omnitron defense system, which takes 5 minutes to get to, and then another 5 to kill. Would you like to tell me how that's better for a casual player? Because it's not. There's plenty of low-hanging fruit that you can pick in the raids that doesn't actually take too long to get to. Bastion of Twilight is fairly similar. Getting to the Conclave of the Winds doesn't take that long either. So you do have options there. You've also got that silly boss in the Baron Hold. But of course, you know, doing a dungeon that takes 45 minutes, many of which are the case. Grim Batol, prime example, that takes a long time. Halls of Origination, very long instance. Throne of Ties, not so long, but Blackrock Caverns, pretty long. Shadowfang Keep, pretty long. Dead Mines, pretty long. In fact, there aren't all that many dungeons you can do in 15 minutes anymore. There's no equivalent of Anu Barak and his whatever the hell the place was that I can't really remember. Ajal Narub, yes. Ajal Narub in 8 minutes, folks. Very doable. There's no Violet Hold anymore. These are real dungeons for real men. And indeed, it takes longer to beat these dungeons than it does to do quite a few raid bosses. But of course, it's casual friendly, obviously. Now, casuals can only play 5-mans. So says this guy, who's an idiot. But it looks like now we can only get blue gear. Can someone confirm this? This is hilarious. I love this. This is wonderful. This makes me so happy. You wanna know why it makes me so happy? Because it confirms what I believe about these people, that they're actually fucking retarded. It's as simple as this. Can someone confirm this? That we can only get blue gear? Because if this is true, I don't see any point in playing anymore. They've taken away our gear progression entirely. Oh no, our gear progression. Gear progression. I'm familiar with the concept of gear progression. I'll tell you a thing about gear progression. Gear progression tends to involve increased difficulty. It involves increased difficulty because of the risk-reward paradigm. Risk-reward. The greater the risk, the greater the reward. The harder the content, the better stuff you get. However, it seems that this guy doesn't really seem to understand this. They don't understand that progression involves an increase in difficulty. You can't just do the same content over and over again and get better loot. Except you can, because that was the Wrath model. I'm just going to do the same 5-mans over and over and over again, and over the course of 2 years I'm going to get progressively better gear from it, despite the fact that they're easier and easier and easier because of the level of gear that I've got. Yeah. As your pathetic logic betrays you. Oh, you can only get blues. Too bad, so sad. You know what you need to do to get epics? You have to work for them, you spineless maggot. That's what you are, a spineless maggot. And sadly, Blizzard have this stupid idea still that it's okay to have people do the same content over and over again and for the rewards to get gradually better. Yeah. For a while, it's going to be cool because we're back to the start of Wrath, where the badge system only rewards you with basic gear. At least it doesn't give you epics this time around. At least it doesn't give you epics this time around, folks. That would be bad. That would be pretty terrible. It's good that they're not doing that, but unfortunately, it's a temporary situation. It is. And it's a shame. Incredible shame. What I would have liked to see from Blizzard in Cataclysm is a very, very simple idea. Risk-reward, folks. Risk-reward. Risk-reward is the structure and indeed the philosophy that most games are built on. And the games that aren't built on that, well, they're generally not very good. You can only get the best loot from doing the harder encounters. But you might say, well, Blizzard is keeping to that, because you can only get the best loot from doing the harder encounters, but here's the thing, that's not all it's about. If I keep grinding 5-mans, why is it that by doing the same difficulty level content, difficulty level that never actually changes, it always stays the same? It's not like they're buffing the 5-mans every encounter. And indeed every patch. If they were, maybe I could understand it, but they're not, are they? Indeed, mostly they just nerf them over and over again. And yet, if I keep doing the same difficulty content, I will eventually get better gear. Why? Exactly. What is the logic behind that? What is the rationale, the rhyme, and the reason for that? And could you tell me, if you don't like raids, why exactly do you want epic gear? What are you going to use it for? Oh, that's right, nothing, because you don't raid. So you don't have a use for that better gear. You're being given gear that is optimal for the content you are doing. You are being rewarded with the level of gear that is appropriate for the content you are doing. And since you don't like raiding, because of course raiding is elitist, and you only have 6 seconds a day to play, because of course you're very, very busy and very important. Busy and important, wow. If only this guy knew my workload. And do you see me crying about raiding? For God's sake, I'm not even level 81 yet. I don't have the time. Do you think I cry about that? No. I'm not in raiding yet. Do you think I cry about that? Do you think I'm going to cry that it's probably going to take me at least a month, if not longer, to get to the level where I'm able to raid? No. You want to know why? Because I'm not 12 years old. Or indeed have the mentality of a child that is so demanding and so entitled. I want my presents now! Mommy, I want candy now, now, now! It does remind me of this kid that I saw in Asda today. I was popping over there to grab this delicious Sicilian lemon water, in fact, which is my usual casting drink. And you know what? When it comes to children, they have a perfect excuse. You know, they're immature. They're not up to the level an adult should be. They can't really handle it when they demand something and someone says no to them. And yet, these people that actually complain about this are often adults, and people turn around and say no to them. And they cry and scream more than most average children do. At least children stop crying after a while. My God, seriously. You know, after about 5 or 10 minutes, the child will get over it. It takes about 5 or 10 frickin' months for the other guy to get over it. You hear the same crap on the forum over and over again. Why can't I have the candy? Why can't I have the candy? Why can't I have the candy? Over and over and over and over again, incessantly. It never ends ad nauseum. Bashiok responds, and unfortunately his answer is not as barbed as I would have liked it to be. It's good though. This is coming from a sense, he says, of blue lesser than purple, and it's something you should get used to. Epics are intentionally more epic again. They're not thrown at you as soon as you walk in the door like in Wrath, and because of that you're going to need to equip what you can to progress. But yeah, I don't think under any circumstances should badges awarded from 5-man content ever give epic items at any point. Hell, I would go as far as to say, if this is not already done, any item that is bought with lower tier badges should always be blue. I don't even care if it's statted like an epic, it should be blue. You want to know why? Because it makes this guy cry. And it forever marks out people that are incapable of doing the content that they want the rewards from. You know, make epic raid only, or high-end PvP only. Or, you've got to work your ass off to craft this only. But never give it to do 5-mans. Why? Why should you ever do that? Team Fortress had the right idea, folks. They put a nice prefix on any item that was acquired before you were able to buy items. I can't remember the exact name of it. So like a classic or a old school or whatever. I can't remember what it was. But whatever the case, it forever marked out people that had earned it in the legitimate manner as special. It's like, this guy worked for his. And you didn't. And that's cool. That's what I'd ask Blizzard to do. If you're going to make one compromise, if you insist on following through this folly when it comes to item progression via the 2-tier badge system, at least downgrade every single item that comes in that used to be purple to blue. You can leave the stats be. You can even leave the names be, you can leave the models be, but make it blue. Forever mark out those who won't as inferior, because that's what they are. And you know what? The guys who just want to do 5-man content and don't complain about not getting gear above their station are going to be fine with it. And the guys that don't, well, we'll hear their tears soon enough. Think about that one, Blizzard. My name is TotalBiscuit, you're listening to Blue Plz right here on CynicalBrit.com. When I go back after the break, I think we're going to be doing the Illusion of Choice. Sounds pretty reasonable to me. I'm going to leave the questing thing till next show, because I haven't really done enough of it to talk about it. In the meantime, I want to play some brand new Motorhead. Yes, indeed. Oh, yeah. There is brand new Motorhead. Motorhead will never die. The World Is Yours is the name of the album, and the name of the track is Devils in My Hand. Enjoy. You are listening to the podcast, an archive of Blue Plz. Music was removed to comply with copyright law. If you'd like to hear the music, tune into the live stream on Fridays at 8 p.m. GMT. That's 3 p.m. EST, only on CynicalBrit.com. You are listening to Blue Plz, right here on CynicalBrit.com, the illusion of choice! Yeah, that will be the part of the show where I submit to your will. Well, not really. I pick a topic that's come in via the email, and I use that as the end of the show. You might be aware, folks, that I don't really prepare too much for the show. I really don't. I like to be pretty spontaneous. So, to me, the illusion of choice isn't really all that different anyway. So I come up with the topics before the show, and then the illusion of choice sort of gets tacked on the end, and it's all good. But sometimes I get some really good ideas. This one's coming in from Absolar. Absolar is a level 85 rogue on Frostmain. He's in the Pink Spear tribe. I really don't want to know what that's all about. And he says, "Dear host of shows,
You dare look upon the host of souls! I shall devour you all!"
Yes, isn't it delicious? Dear host of shows, yesterday I was going through heroic Blackrock caverns with a pug group, and something quite unexpected happened. Reaching Steelbender, we started wiping. After about 3 wipes, I was pretty sure my group was on the verge of breaking up, but that is when something happened that was unexpected. The tank started trying to analyze what he was doing wrong, doing his best to figure out why we were dying. If only he'd watched my guides. The healer started following suit, trying out different strategies and positions to keep us alive and conserve mana. After an hour or so of wipes, the warlock of the group said something that stuck in my mind. I would leave, but I spent so much time getting here, it would feel like total defeat, and that's why I'm still trying. Basically, what I'm getting at is that people were willing to learn. There was no rage, every wipe was accepted with good humor, and even more determination to kill the boss. So I'd like to hear your opinion on this. Do you believe that the significantly harder heroics would actually encourage people to learn and adapt as opposed to rage quitting at the slightest setback, like in Wrath? Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that every group is going to be like this. I still think there is going to be rage quitting. I've heard stories that there has been rage quitting of people just jumping out, but I think that actually this is a good point made about the way to socially engineer players. I've said this several times, and it has been true on every single utterance. The fact of the matter is that Blizzard has a power, and that power is to socially engineer the attitudes of players. They can manipulate players via changes in the game. And that sounds sinister, but it really isn't necessarily. That's the way that it should be. When you've got a game that's going on for this long, you have to manipulate your players constantly. You have to force them into certain ways of thinking, because if they are not in that way of thinking, they will fail. And that is not necessarily a good thing. You want your players to succeed. Blizzard is a caring but abusive father. It's like, he beats his children, but he really, really just wants the best for them. That's what Cataclysm is, whereas in Wrath, what you had was a father that spoils his children. never punishes them for any wrongdoing, just keeps giving them presents. Hey, you broke my computer, you smashed it on the floor, you spilled your glass of juice all over my computer. Here, have this toy. Is that the way that you treat a child? No, it's not. Admittedly, you also don't beat them, but hey, what you do is you find a medium. It's called you reward a child that does well, and you punish a child that does bad things, so they learn not to do it again. And that is the way that Cataclysm is. Now, the way that Cataclysm heroics work, in most cases, not all I might add. Blackrock Caverns is a good example because there are a number of encounters there that are quite challenging. Steelbender, for instance, is confusing for a lot of players. They haven't really seen anything like it before. It uses a pseudo-similar mechanic to Hydros the Unclean, which is a boss from SSC, Tier 5 content back in the Burning Crusade. The tank is tested, the healers are tested, and there is a lot of timing required in this. It's not a particularly complicated encounter, but it's sufficiently different from the stuff that was seen in Wrath to give a lot of players pause. And some players might, of course, be tempted to rage quit and say, it's too hard! But in reality, it's not too hard, actually. It's just different. And you've just got to learn, and certain amounts of precision are required. Now, here's the thing. I think that, yes, actually, dungeons like this can call to the innate sense of pride inside someone, their ego. Ego is not necessarily a bad thing, folks. Indeed, ego can drive some great, great things. The greatest artists in the world, the greatest singers in the world, the greatest writers in the world, they're not all humble people. Actually, a lot of them are very well aware of their abilities, and they use that. Yes. They use that in order to drive their work to even greater heights. Yeah. So, what these dungeons do is they call... I'm sorry, I'm just staring at my playlist right here. I've just realized that the last track off the new Seventh Wonder album is 30 minutes long! Temptation to play that very, very high. Not going to, though. No, that would be bad. Anyway, so... getting back to the point. These dungeons call to that sense of pride, even though... in many people, that sense of pride has been buried under entitlement and the bleeding heart nature of things. And the fact that they're crying and screaming, they want it, they need those epics. I want my purples, Blizzard. I only play 6 seconds a day. And I might have to downgrade that to 5, because you know what, 6 seconds sounds a little bit too hardcore for me. Yeah. No. Pain, anger. Yeah, dungeons like this can inspire a certain amount of determination in people. And that determination will drive the player base forward, and it will make you better. Because the way that you learn WoW is often through failure. You go wipe, you learn from the wipe. You make sure you don't repeat the same mistake twice. If any of you were watching the SK Gaming stream yesterday, you will have seen that in action. This is what the best players do, and it's a very, very simple philosophy that everyone can use and learn from. You never saw the SK Gaming guys make the same mistake twice. True story. Like, for instance, they screwed up the blackout. You never saw it happen again. After that wipe, they learned and they got the blackout down perfectly. They screwed up the transition on Valion and Thralian. They didn't do that again. They screwed up the DPS, indeed, and the tanking of the Drakes on Harfus Wormbreaker. They didn't do that again. They screwed up the positioning on the Lava Parasites on Magmor. They didn't do that again. They screwed up the bombs on Omnitron Defense System, and they didn't do that again. That's what wiping's all about. That is the very essence of wiping. Wiping is learning. Learning through failure. Because that's what most people do. It's what scientists do. They try something, they experiment something, it fails. They analyze why, and they make their next experiment better. And better, and better, until they find the right answer. That is how it works in many, many walks of life. And indeed, in games, it's the same thing. I tried this, didn't work. Why didn't it work? Let's have a think. Let's put our heads together. There's 5 of us in this group. I'm sure we can think of the solution. And yet, in Wrath, that's not what people did, is it? Because they were spoiled on this easy content, when they finally met something they couldn't handle, it was just rage, 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 nerf, 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 demands, demands. Or quit, in fact. Oculus prime example, the most rage quit dungeon in the entirety of Wrath of the Lich King. We can look at all these other dungeons as well, the ICC 5-mans that were nerfed over and over again as a direct result, because by that point people were not capable of dealing with this. This expansion is a perfect time to change that around. It's a perfect time to ensure that players are challenged and that they will actually find enjoyment from that challenge. They can be made to do so. And you know what? Some people won't. Some people will quit. Some people will unsub. But let me remind you once again, Blizzard, that 67% of the people in that poll of over 5,000 people, WoW players, young and old, male and female, from all over the world, said that they unsubbed due to lackluster content. So consider the quote that, I cannot give you a recipe for success, but I can tell you something about failure. The way that you fail is by trying to please everybody all the time. A bastardized quote, but it works. And it's true. You are always going to lose people. The only thing that's important is that you retain more than you lose and that you gain more than you lose through having a united front and a good, solid philosophy backing up your design that says we will not bend to people that cry. We will not move the goalposts. We will not lower the bar so that you can get over it. You get off your fat ass and learn how to jump. And we don't care if you fall over the bar. We don't care if you get laughed at by your friends. We don't care if you land on the bar, it goes between your legs and gives you the most painful experience of your life. Because eventually, you, hopefully, will have the balls and indeed the skill to leap over that bar. And when you do, it's going to be an incredibly satisfying and far less painful experience than failing. That's all that's required. That's what is required from you as a player. It's what applies to other games. It's what should apply here. And if Blizzard has any sense, they will keep that philosophy and that idea alive and intact. And if they don't, well, we've seen what that's done before. 67%, folks. Does Blizzard want that again? I'm thinking no. Shout out time, folks. Email in themurloc@gmail.com. That is themurloc@gmail.com. Alternatively, you can send me a PM over IRC. IRC.quakenet.org, hash or pound cynical Brit. You can send me a message there. Or if you so desire, you can send me a tweet. TotalBiscuit on Twitter with your shoutouts for the last few minutes of the show. I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in today. Great listenership numbers, big fan of that. And by the looks of it, I'll be getting some more servers as well, because we had, again, some server instability on server 2. Working on that, folks. We hopefully will have another one based in Germany next week, by the looks of it. So we're looking to set that up. That'll be great. And I would also like to tell you that after much deliberation and a lot of anticipation, the cynical Brit Rig Mac 2, codenamed Plague, will be here next week. Snow permitting, which looks like it's all melting, so yeah. Ah! Raw power in a wonderful silver case. A 980X 12 gigabytes of Kingston HyperX T1 2000 MHz tri-channel RAM and 2 580s. Yeah. Would you like to touch it? I would like to touch it. It's going to be here next week. That means Shoutcraft is coming back. Hell yeah. Shoutouts. And shout out to the trollface.jpg members for merging into one active guild. That's actually not entirely true. The trollface.png members are merging into GIF and JPEG because we're purging inactive. So we will have 2 guilds at the moment. And we have quite a lot more critters to kill, folks. So we're going to have to keep going on there. But we did get our banner, so I'm really happy about that. A shout out to Megaterra for setting up the ORD, the occasional raiding division in Trollface from Anaway. By the way, if you're in Trollface, you're wondering what's going on, then I'm going to be putting up a forum over the next couple of days, which is going to be the place where you get recruited for divisions. And we're going to get that all sorted out. It's going to be good. A shout out to the Hungry and Cold and Fires Brotherhood EU for getting several Realm First 85s and looking strong to cry at new raiding content. P.S. RP PvP equals less idiots. Yeah, actually, I've seen that. I'd like to also give a shout-out, by the way, to the second Gurabashi Empire on Defias, who contacted me while I was playing in-game. Very respectable, very courteous, and indeed very troll. Keep that dream alive. Yes, indeed. You keep going. A shout-out to Guriap, from Guriap even, to Out of Order on Room Totem EU. Thanks for being awesome. A shout-out to My Guild on Shadow Song EU Aza Descendarts. Really? For giving me the chance to raid in Cataclysm. Love you. I love you. See you in Cataclysm. That's from Night Chris. And a shout to my book, where I share my story about my sadly passed away girlfriend. It is finally finished after so many years. That's depressing, but good that you've come out with that. That takes a lot of guts. That's from Tristanina. And Sylvanas Odyssey EU. A shout out to my PvP division, Carrot Cake PvP in Trollface, that's from Galore, and a shout out to Zora on Echo Isles for being insane and deciding to level 84 to 85 with PvP Battlegrounds. Hey, options, man! Options, big respect for that. A shout out to Shroominator for digging 85 before me, professions are cheating. And I'd like to also give a shout out to Lillian, Horny Angel, and Aaron. Horny Angel, seriously? From Adept on Terranus EU. Is that I was going to say that's not the guys that are like number 2 in the world at the minute, is it? I don't know, but hey. No, I'm not going to be shouting out to that channel. That would be a bad idea. Can I give a shout out to Blizzard for putting Hunters on top of the DPS food chain again? Very thanks. That's from Avatas. Hunters. How do they work? Shout out to Nephili. Yeah. Nephili on Storm Rage and Nate as well. And that is from Soki, who I believe is the person who did give me that amazing bottle of vodka. Thanks for that. I have not tasted it yet, but I will. A shout out to TB for hosting an awesome show. Who the hell's TB? That guy owes me money. And the shout out for being me. That's from David Perala. Well, how arrogant. And one last thing. Someone called Kleptaco just sent me a message. Yep, they sent me a message on Twitter, and they asked me one simple question. Should I come back for the game in Kato? I played most of TBC and quit at the launch of Wrath because it got boring. Yes, you should, without a shadow of a doubt. I'm done. Thank you very, very much for listening to Blue Plz today. Much appreciated. I'm going to go out with some Man of War. This is Death Tone. And I will see you with Azeroth Daily that's coming out later today. My name's been TotalBiscuit. Good night. You have been listening to the podcast and archive of Blue Plz, WoW's #1 shock jock show, only on CynicalBrit.com. We'd love to hear from you, so feel free to leave a comment on the Cynical Brit website or write a review of the show on iTunes. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.